I buried my husband 6 months ago. Yesterday, I saw him alive. Before we continue this story, allow us to greet you with sincere warmth and heartfelt gratitude. Please leave a comment below and tell us where you are watching this video from. Every message from you gives us the strength to keep sharing meaningful stories. Don't forget to subscribe and like, so we can continue to grow and bring you stories that are not only entertaining, but also touch the heart and carry deep meaning. And for those who have already subscribed, our sincere prayers are always with you. May your blessings continue to grow. May your life be filled with endless happiness. And may every good hope you carry become a beautiful reality. Thank you for being here. Now, let us continue the story. I had stood at his grave until my legs went numb, until the cold stone beneath my fingers felt warmer than my own skin. 6 months of mornings waking up to silence. 6 months of nights clutching the side of the bed where Thomas used to sleep. 6 months of learning how to breathe again without him. Or so I thought. That morning I went to the grocery store because grief does not excuse an empty refrigerator. I remember standing in the canned goods aisle, staring at rows of beans and soups, thinking how strange it was that life kept moving so normally when mine had stopped. I reached for a jar of tomato sauce, and that was when I heard it. His voice. Not loud, not calling my name, just a familiar sound carried by habit. A soft cough followed by a muttered complaint about prices. The exact same tone I had listened to for 41 years. The sound that used to drift from the kitchen while he read the paper. The sound I had sworn I would never hear again. My hand froze mid-air. I turned slowly, my heart already pounding, as if my body knew the truth before my mind could accept it. And there he was, standing 3 shelves down, holding a shopping basket, comparing labels like he always did. Thomas, the same broad shoulders slightly hunched now with age, the same silver hair that refused to lie flat, the same scar above his right eyebrow from the ladder fall. He laughed about for years. The man I buried, the man whose name was carved into marble. I dropped the jar. It shattered on the floor, red splattering across white tile like something alive. People gasped. Someone said, "Ma'am, are you okay?" I did not answer. My feet were already moving. "Thomas," I cried, my voice breaking apart as it left my throat. "Thomas, it is me." He turned. For one terrible, hopeful second. I expected recognition. I expected shock. I expected his face to light up the way it always did when he saw me after a long day. Instead, he looked confused. Genuinely confused. "I am sorry," he said slowly, carefully, as if speaking to someone fragile. "I think you have me mistaken for someone else." The words hit harder than the sight of him. Mistaken, as if 41 years could be mistaken, as if I had not memorized every line of his face in the dark. "No," I whispered, stepping closer. "No, Thomas. It is me, Eleanor, your wife." He took a step back. That movement hurt more than anything. Thomas never stepped away from me, not once, not even during our worst arguments. "My name is Daniel," he said. "Daniel Brooks. I do not know you." His voice was the same, deep, slightly rough, the voice that told me he loved me on quiet nights when words felt too small. I reached for my phone with shaking hands and pulled up a photo from last summer, his last birthday. Us sitting on the porch, his arm around my shoulders. I held it up between us. "Look," I said. "Look at this. Do you remember this day? You burned the steaks and blamed the grill." He glanced at the screen. Just for a moment, something flickered in his eyes. A pause too long. A tightening of his jaw. Then he shook his head. "I am sorry," he repeated. "I have never seen that photo before. You must be going through something very difficult." He placed a hand on my shoulder. That touch nearly broke me. It was his hand. The same warmth, the same weight, the same place he always touched when he wanted to calm me down. "Please," he continued gently. "You should sit down. Get some water." I stared at his left hand. "Show me your fingers," I said suddenly. He frowned, but lifted his hand. There it was, the crooked pinky, the one he broke at 15 fixing his mother's roof. The one I used to tease him about when we held hands. My stomach dropped. "I have to go now," he said quickly, already turning his card away. "I truly hope you feel better." And just like that, he walked away. I stood there shaking while an employee cleaned the mess at my feet. People avoided my eyes. Someone whispered, "Poor woman." They were wrong. I was not poor. I was terrified. Because as I watched him disappear toward the checkout, one thought screamed louder than my grief ever had. If my husband was alive, then who was buried in his grave? And whatever the answer was, I knew my life was about to break open in ways I could not yet imagine. I should have left the store. I should have gone home, locked the door, and told myself grief had finally broken something inside me. That would have been easier, cleaner. But I did not leave. I watched him from the end of the aisle as he paid for his groceries. He used cash. I noticed that because Thomas always used a card and complained about keeping receipts. This man did not take one. He folded the bills carefully, the same way my husband used to, pressing the edges flat with his thumb. My chest felt tight, every breath shallow. When he pushed the cart toward the exit, my feet moved without asking permission. I followed at a distance, ducking behind displays, pretending to read labels. I felt ridiculous and desperate and completely awake all at once. Outside, the afternoon air hit my face. He loaded his groceries into an old sedan, white paint dulled by age, a dent along the rear door. Not the car Thomas owned, not the car he loved and polished every weekend. Still, the way he placed the bags inside was unmistakable. Heavy items first, bread on top, eggs last. I memorized the license plate without realizing I was doing it. He pulled out of the parking lot and drove away. I stood there for a few seconds, my hands clenched at my sides, then walked to my car. The one Thomas bought me 2 years before the accident, saying he wanted me to have something safe, something reliable. I followed him. I stayed 3 or 4 car lengths back, close enough not to lose him, far enough not to be noticed. My heart pounded so loudly I was afraid it would give me away. We passed streets I knew, then turned into neighborhoods I rarely visited. The houses grew smaller, older, more modest. He slowed and turned onto a quiet street lined with trees and low fences. He parked in front of a simple house painted a pale green, the kind of color meant to feel cheerful. A white picket fence framed a small yard. Wind chimes hung near the porch. He stepped out with the grocery bags. Then the front door opened. A woman appeared, mid-50s, maybe younger than me by a decade. Dark hair pulled back, no makeup, wearing a sweater that looked lived in. She smiled when she saw him. Not a polite smile, a familiar one. She leaned in and kissed his cheek. My vision blurred. She took one of the bags from his hands, speaking to him softly. I could not hear the words, but I recognized the intimacy, the ease, the comfort of shared routines. Then 2 children burst through the doorway, a boy and a girl around 8 and 10. They ran straight toward him, arms flung wide. "Grandpa!" the girl shouted. "Did you bring the ice cream?" He laughed. That laugh. The sound hit me like a physical blow, lopsided and warm. The laugh I heard in our kitchen for decades, the laugh I thought I would never hear again. He crouched down, letting them climb onto him, balancing grocery bags with practice skill. The woman watched, smiling, her hand resting lightly on his back. They all went inside together. The door closed. I sat frozen in my car, parked halfway down the street, my hands gripping the steering wheel. The sun streamed through the windshield, warming my face. Only then did I realize I was crying. Not sobbing, not gasping, just steady tears sliding down my cheeks. 41 years of marriage, 6 months of mourning, nights spent alone, whispering his name into the dark. And he was here alive, laughing, holding children who were not mine. I took out my phone and began taking pictures. The house, the car, the address number by the door. My hands shook so badly that some photos came out blurred, but a few were clear enough. As the light began to fade, I started my car and drove away. I do not remember the drive home, only sitting in my garage afterward, staring at my phone, zooming in on his face again and again. Every line matched, every shadow. When I finally went inside my empty house, a single question echoed louder than anything else. If Thomas was alive, then who had I buried? I did not sleep that night. I sat at the kitchen table with a single lamp on, the rest of the house swallowed by darkness. My phone lay beside old photo albums spread open like evidence at a crime scene. I moved between them slowly, deliberately, as if speed might break whatever fragile thread was holding me together. I zoomed in on the photos I had taken that afternoon, his face as he turned toward the house, his profile through the car window. Then I looked down at pictures from our past. Our wedding day, his first gray hair, a beach photo from years ago where his shirt rode up slightly. Every detail matched, the scar above his eyebrow from the ladder fall, the small mole near his collarbone he hated because it made him self-conscious. Even the slight unevenness in his ears that only I ever noticed. These were not things grief invented. These were facts etched by time. I pressed my fingers to my lips to stop them from trembling. Twins did not share scars. Strangers did not share memories written into flesh. I stood up and paced the house, my footsteps echoing in rooms that suddenly felt unfamiliar. This place was supposed to be my safe space, the home Thomas left me. Now it felt like a stage set built on a lie. At 3:40 in the morning, I stopped pacing and picked up my phone. I called my son. It rang once, twice, 3 times. On the 4th ring, Lucas answered, his voice thick with sleep. "Mom, do you know what time it is? I need you to come over right now." I said a pause. "Mom, it is the middle of the night. Did something happen?" "Yes," I said. "Something happened." Another pause. Longer this time. "Mom, if this is about Dad again, we talked about this. You have been through a lot. Grief can do strange things." "I saw him yesterday," I said. "I saw your father alive." Silence, then a breath. Sharp, controlled. "Mom, what did you take? Did you miss your medication?" "I followed him home, Lucas. I saw where he lives. I saw his family." My voice did not shake. That seemed to scare him more. "Stay there," he said finally. "Do not go anywhere. I am coming." The call ended. I went to the bathroom and looked at myself in the mirror. I barely recognized the woman staring back. Dark circles under my eyes, hair pulled back without care, a face that looked older than it had 6 months ago. When Lucas arrived 40 minutes later, he did not knock. He let himself in just like he used to when he was a teenager. He found me back at the kitchen table, surrounded by photos. "Mom," he said softly. "What is going on?" I handed him my phone first. I did not speak. I watched his face as he scrolled. At first there was confusion, then disbelief, then something else. Fear. He swallowed hard and handed the phone back. "He looks like Dad," he said carefully. "But people resemble each other. It happens." "Did you see his hand?" I asked. "The finger." Lucas rubbed his face. "Mom, we buried Dad. You were there. I was there. Everyone was there." "A closed casket," I said quietly. He looked away. "They said it was better that way," he replied. "The accident was bad." "Did you see his body, Lucas?" His jaw tightened. "No, neither did I." The room felt suddenly very small. "I want to go back there," I said, standing. "I want you to come with me." "Mom, this is not healthy. Are you coming or am I going alone?" He hesitated long enough for the truth to begin cracking through the surface. "Fine," he said finally. "We will go so you can see that it is not him. So you can let this go." We left in silence. As we turned onto the quiet street with the pale green house, my heart began to race again. "That is the one," I said. Lucas parked a short distance away. We sat there watching. After a few minutes, the front door opened. The man stepped out. Lucas leaned forward. The color drained from his face. He stared unmoving as the man walked to the car and drove past us. When I looked at my son, tears were streaming down his cheeks. "Mom," he whispered. In that moment, before he said another word, I knew whatever truth he had been carrying, it was finally breaking him too. Lucas did not start the car. He sat there gripping the steering wheel, his forehead resting against it, his shoulders shaking. I had seen my son cry before when his first marriage failed, when his dog died, but never like this. This was not grief. This was collapse. "Mom," he said finally, his voice. "I am so sorry." Those words landed with terrifying clarity. Sorry meant guilt. Sorry meant knowledge. Sorry meant this was never just in my head. "Tell me," I said. My voice sounded distant even to myself. "Tell me right now." He lifted his head and looked at me. His eyes were red, raw, filled with something I had never seen in them before: shame. "Dad did not die in that accident." The words hung between us, heavy and final. I did not scream. I did not gasp. Some part of me had already crossed into a place where shock could no longer reach. I simply nodded once. "Go on." He took a deep breath, as if preparing to dive underwater. "He had another family. Mom, for a long time, over 20 years, that woman you saw, Claudia, he lived with her part of the time. He said it started as a mistake, then it just never ended." I stared straight ahead at the empty street. "How long did you know?" "About 3 years," Lucas admitted. "I found out by accident. I was helping him with paperwork from the marina supply business. I saw duplicate bills, utilities, insurance, 2 households. The marina supply business, the job that kept him traveling constantly, the job I had defended to friends when they said he was gone too much. And you said nothing." He wiped his face with his sleeve. "He begged me not to tell you. He said it would destroy you. He said if you found out, you would take half of everything, the business, the house, everything he built." "Everything we built," I corrected. Lucas nodded miserably. "6 months ago, he came to me with a plan. He said he wanted to end the double life and be with her for good. But if he divorced you, he would lose too much. So he decided it would be easier if you thought he was dead." My hands began to shake. "Easier for whom?" "For him," Lucas whispered. "And for me?" I turned to him sharply. "For you?" He looked away. If he died, everything passed to me automatically. The business assets, the accounts. He transferred most of the money to himself first under a different name. The rest came to me. I thought I could take care of you, give you an allowance, make sure you were okay. An allowance like a child, like a stranger. "How did he fake it?" I asked. My voice was eerily calm. Lucas swallowed. "There was a man, a homeless man, terminally ill. No family except a niece he never saw. Dad paid him. Paid the niece. They staged an accident. Dad used his documents. The man died in the hospital under your husband's name. The body was badly damaged. The casket stayed closed. The world tilted. I remembered the phone call from the police. Lucas insisting I not see the body. The funeral I sobbed through while people held my hands and told me how strong I was. You let me bury a stranger, I said. Yes, you let me mourn him. Yes, you watched me fall apart for 6 months. Lucas broke down completely. I did not know how to stop it once it started. I thought if enough time passed, you would heal, that it would be kinder this way. Kinder? I laughed then, a short sound with no humor in it. You stole my right to the truth. You stole my grief and replaced it with a lie. I closed my eyes, breathing slowly, carefully. Take me home, I said. Mom, we need to talk about this. Take me home. He started the car. Neither of us spoke on the drive back. When we arrived, I got out without looking at him. Mom, please, he called after me. I did not answer. Inside my house, I sat on the edge of the bed and looked around at the life I thought I had lived. 41 years of loyalty, of compromise, of believing in the man beside me. It had all been a performance. And now that I knew the truth, one thing was clear. I was done being the woman who cried in silence. Whatever came next, it would not be forgiveness. It would be reckoning. For 3 days, I did nothing. I did not call Lucas back. I did not answer his messages. I watched him pull into my driveway twice from the upstairs window and leave again when I did not open the door. I let the phone ring until it stopped, then ring again. 41 years of loyalty had trained me to always respond, to always fix things. This time, I chose silence. Not the silence of fear, the silence of calculation. I slept little, but I was no longer pacing or crying. Something inside me had shifted. Grief had burned itself out, leaving behind a cold, steady clarity. I replayed everything Lucas had told me, not as a wife or a mother, but as a witness. Fake death, stolen identity, hidden assets, forged signatures, a purchased body. This was not betrayal. This was a crime. On the 4th morning, I woke up before dawn and knew exactly what I was going to do. I took a long shower, letting the hot water ground me. I dressed carefully, choosing clothes that made me feel like myself again. Not the widow everyone pied. When I looked in the mirror, I saw someone older, yes, but sharper, awake. I was done crying. Now I was thinking. I drove downtown to a building I had passed 100 times and never noticed. 3rd floor, frosted glass door, a simple sign with black letters, private investigations. The man behind the desk was in his 60s, thinning hair, sharp eyes. He looked up when I entered and studied me without speaking. I need to find someone, I said, sitting down without waiting to be invited. He leaned back. Is he missing or hiding? Hiding, I replied, and legally dead. That got his attention. I told him everything. Not the emotions, not the years of marriage, but the facts. The accident, the closed casket, the new name, the house, the children calling him Grandpa. I showed him the photos I had taken. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he nodded slowly. If what you are saying is true, this goes beyond cheating. This is identity fraud and financial deception. It will take time. It will cost money. I can pay, I said. I want proof. Bank records, property records, fake documents, everything. He named a number. I did not flinch. I wrote the check. I want the truth documented, I said. Not suspected, proven. He smiled faintly. I can do that. Over the next week, I watched from the edges of my own life. I returned to the street with a pale green house at different hours, wearing hats and sunglasses, sitting in my car like a stranger. I learned his schedule. He left every morning at the same time. He returned in the evening. Weekends were for the children, Sundays for church. A good man, the neighbors would have said. I learned the name he used, the work he did now. The modest life he pretended was new. I watched the woman touch his arm the way I used to. I watched him smile with the ease of someone who believed his past was buried. It was not. The investigator called me 7 days later. I have enough for a full report. He said, "You should come in." The folder he handed me was thick, heavy, real fake birth certificate issued years after my husband was supposedly born. Bank accounts opened under the false name with nearly $2 million transferred before the accident. Utility bills and tax records tying him to 2 households for over 2 decades. And then the last page, phone records, multiple calls, regular long between my husband and my son before the accident, after the funeral. During the months I thought I was alone. Lucas had not just known, he had stayed involved. I closed the folder slowly. "Thank you," I said. As I walked out of that office, something settled inside me. This was no longer about rage or revenge. It was about dignity, about truth, about refusing to be erased quietly. They thought I would mourn forever. They thought my silence meant weakness. They were wrong. The storm had not passed. It had only just begun. I did not confront Lucas right away. That was the hardest part. Every instinct in me wanted to scream, to throw the evidence on the table and demand answers. But anger rushes, strategy waits. And for the first time in my life, I chose patience over emotion. I took the folder home and read every page slowly. Bank transfers, dates, amounts, accounts opened under a name that did not exist, documents signed while my husband was supposedly dead. Everything was neat, organized, planned. This had never been a panic decision. It had been calculated. I made an appointment with an attorney the next morning, not the kind who handled wills or real estate. I needed someone who understood fraud, financial crimes, identity theft. She was direct, sharp, no wasted words. "What you are describing is a criminal conspiracy," she said after reviewing the documents. "Your husband committed identity fraud and financial theft. Your son aided and benefited. You are entitled to restitution, and there is strong ground for criminal charges." I felt a strange calm listening to her. "What do you need from me?" I asked. "A confession would help," she replied. "Especially from your son. We also need proof of asset transfers and forged authorizations. If we have that, the case is airtight." I already knew where those documents would be. Lucas kept an office at the main supply warehouse. He had once given me a spare key years ago for emergencies. I had never used it until now. But first, I needed him to talk. I called him that afternoon. "Mom," he answered immediately. "Are you okay? I have been so worried. I am tired," I said, letting my voice soften. "I do not want to fight anymore. I just need to understand everything so I can move forward." There was relief in his breath. "Of course, Mom. Anything you want to know." "Let us have lunch tomorrow," I said somewhere quiet. He agreed without hesitation. That night, I placed a small recorder in my purse. I practiced keeping my hands still. I rehearsed my questions until they sounded like curiosity instead of accusation. At lunch, I listened. I let him talk. I asked when the plan started, how the money was moved, who signed what, where the proceeds from the sales had gone. Each answer came easily to him now, unguarded, confident that I was still his mother, still safe. He did not notice the recorder. He did not notice that every word was sealing his fate. While we ate, my attorney and the investigator were already at work. With the evidence I had provided, they secured emergency access to financial records. The transactions told the rest of the story: forged signatures, unauthorized sales, funds wired into accounts Lucas controlled. By the time lunch ended, the trap was closed. That afternoon, my attorney filed the complaint with the district attorney. Fraud, forgery, financial exploitation, identity theft. 2 hours later, she called me. "The case has been accepted. Warrants are being prepared." I sat alone in my living room when the call ended. The house was quiet. No music, no television, just the ticking clock on the wall. I thought of the woman I had been 6 months ago, crying into an empty pillow, begging a dead man to come back. That woman would not have survived this moment. But I was no longer her. I did not feel joy or triumph. I felt resolved. The truth was no longer mine alone. Soon it would belong to the law. The first call came at dawn. It was not Lucas. It was my attorney. "They have issued the warrants," she said. "Your son was taken into custody early this morning. No resistance." I closed my eyes and let the words settle. Somewhere across the city, Lucas was being handcuffed, read his rights, led into a car in front of neighbors who once admired him. The weight of that did not feel like victory. It felt like inevitability, An hour later, my phone began to ring. Lucas over and over. I did not answer. Then a message from his wife. Short, shaking. "What did you do?" I set the phone face down and made coffee. By noon, the news had spread through the family. Cousins, old friends, people who had stood beside me at the funeral, who had hugged me and said I was strong. Now they were calling to ask questions they did not want answered. I ignored them all. At 2 in the afternoon, my attorney called again. "There is something else," she said. "The identity he is using, Daniel Brooks. It is being formally invalidated. The accounts under that name have been frozen. He has nowhere to hide." That was the moment I knew I needed to see him. Not to argue, not to explain, but to end it. I drove back to the quiet street with a pale green house. I parked directly in front this time. I did not hide. I did not watch from a distance. I walked to the door and rang the bell. It was the woman who opened it, Claudia. She looked at me with cautious politeness, the kind reserved for strangers. "Can I help you?" "I am here to see Daniel," I said. "It is urgent." She hesitated, then nodded. "He is in the backyard." She stepped aside. He was standing near the fence, tools in his hands, sleeves rolled up. For a second, he did not see me. Then he turned. The recognition was immediate. "Eleanor," he whispered. I held out the envelope. "These are legal documents," I said calmly. "You need to read them." His hands trembled as he took the papers. His eyes moved quickly across the page. I watched the color drain from his face. "What is this?" he asked. "What did you do?" "I did nothing," I replied. I told the truth. He looked past me toward the house. "Does she know?" I raised my voice just enough. "She knows now." Claudia appeared behind him, confusion on her face. "No." "What?" He did not answer. "I am his wife," I said, "his legal wife. We were married for over 40 years. The man you know as Daniel does not exist." The silence that followed was unbearable. Claudia stared at him. "Is this true?" He closed his eyes. She stepped back as if the ground had shifted beneath her feet. "You said you were widowed," she whispered. "You said you had no one." "I had someone," I said. "Me." He fell to his knees on the concrete. "Eleanor, please, I can explain." "No," I said. "You have explained enough. You chose deception. You chose theft. You chose to erase me." Sirens wailed faintly in the distance. "They are coming," he said hoarsely. "Yes," I turned to leave. "Eleanor," he called after me. "For the years we shared, for what we were." I stopped, but I did not turn around. What we were was real to me. I said, "That is why you will never understand what you destroyed." I walked away as the sound of approaching sirens grew louder. I did not look back when the police pulled up. I did not watch them lead him away. Daylight had finally reached the truth, and nothing built on lies survives the light. Thomas died 3 weeks later. Not in the dramatic way people imagine, not in a courtroom or in handcuffs. He suffered a heart attack in the holding facility while awaiting formal charges. The call came early in the morning, calm and procedural, as if informing me of a missed appointment. "He passed at 5:20 a.m., the voice said. "You are listed as next of kin." For a long moment I said nothing. I did not feel relief. I did not feel sorrow. What I felt was distance, as if the man they were describing no longer belonged to my life in any meaningful way. "Cremate him," I said finally. "Scatter the ashes at sea. No service." There was a pause. "Are you certain?" "Yes." He had already taken enough from me. He was not taking one more performance. The legal process moved forward without him. The invalid identity was erased. The accounts were returned to their rightful status. The assets that had been hidden, sold, or transferred under false authority were recovered and redistributed by the court. What was stolen came back to where it belonged. Lucas accepted a plea deal. He was sentenced to prison time for financial fraud and forgery. Not a lifetime, but long enough to understand the cost of his choices. We spoke once after the sentencing. It was not forgiveness. It was clarity. "I love you," I told him. But love does not erase consequences. He nodded. For the first time, he did not argue. Months passed. The house felt different, lighter. I redecorated, not to erase memories, but to claim space. I returned to the hobbies I had abandoned years ago. I traveled with friends. I laughed without guilt. I slept through the night. Grief had not destroyed me. Silence had, and truth had saved me. One afternoon, I visited the cemetery where a stranger lay beneath my husband's name. I stood there briefly, not to mourn, but to close the door on the woman I used to be. That grave did not hold my husband. It held my innocence. I left without looking back. Today my life is quieter, smaller in some ways, stronger in all the ways that matter. I no longer confuse loyalty with self-erasure. I no longer believe love requires silence. I learned that dignity is not granted by marriage or blood. It is claimed the moment you refuse to be lied to any longer. And I learned that even after betrayal, even after years of deception, it is never too late to choose yourself. That choice changes. Thank you so much for listening to my story. Please let me know in the comments where you are listening from so we can connect and share our thoughts. And do not forget to subscribe to the Reality of Life channel. Like this video and show your support by hitting the hype button so this story can be heard by more people.